let me go through a couple things here. So one, this chairman of a former chairman of a Fortune 50 company,
great guy.
If these 6,000 patents were to be released, and right now, if I'm not mistaken, the punishment is they give you 75% of what they think the patent is worth. I believe that's what they say. And then if you sell it off to somebody else and they find out, you're going to jail for the rest of your life.
Right.
If you even talk about it, you're going to jail for the rest of your life.
Right.
And if you go on Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, the way they categorize on what goes in there, right there, if you can read it, folks, the Invention Secrecy Act allows the U.S. government to classify ideas and patents under secrecy orders, which definitely restrict public knowledge of them. And at the top, if you read it, the United States federal law designed to prevent disclosure of new investigations, the opinion and technologies that in the opinion of selected federal agencies, so it's purely opinion-based, of selected federal agencies present an alleged threat, it's alleged threat, to the economic stability and national security of the United States. Okay, so energy, oil, let's just go through it. ExxonMobil right now, market cap, June 2024 is $497 billion, $500 billion company. Chevron is 284. PetroChina, 244, but that's China. India, UK, set them aside. You got a few other companies. You got BP, $100 billion companies. These are not small companies we're talking about. Shell, 218, right? I can go through a bunch of these that we know about. If these things were released, how long before these industries were wiped out? Or would it be nasty? Would it be ugly? Would it be a danger to society? Would people be doing, would protesting, riots, ugliness, power players coming in saying, you're touching my wealth, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. What would happen if this actually was to be released?
Well, see, this is the tragedy of corrupt interests keeping good science away from the public for over 100 years. Yes, it's going to be very difficult. It's like an addiction. The current energy paradigm, the whole planet is now addicted to substances that are not only cancer-causing and bad for the environment, but costly, and that leaves, as I mentioned, 3 billion people with no means even to cook their food. So that paradigm should have been retired, but we can't help that. We have to take the fact this is 2024. And so what I have always said is that it has to be released and then transition. But keep in mind, let's take one example, since you're getting into the macroeconomics of this. We make on the planet about 100 million motor vehicles a year, but there are 1.5 billion motor vehicles on the road, cars and trucks. So even if you retooled and twinkled your nose like Bewitched or something and retrofitted all vehicle manufacturing to these systems, it would take about 15 years. And to tool up, it'll be 5. So you're talking 20 years. Now, I'll probably be dead because I turned 69 next week. And, you know, your children will be in college. And so even if we did it immediately, because there's a lag time, because we're not talking about, you know, downloading an app. We're talking about heavy industry here. We're talking about public utilities. We're talking about manufacturing a box that would be at your house that would generate all the energy you need for your home, no bill, no power bill, and no pollution. But to retrofit 3 billion households on the planet, 2.5 billion, this is a massive, I mean, this makes the Marshall Plan after World War II look like nothing. So yes, this is what I've been saying to policymakers. This needs to happen. It will happen. But the longer, this is like a leak in your roof, right? The longer you put that off, the harder and the mess is going to be to clean up and the more damage. So this is the tragedy of it, is that this was allowed to go on. And one of the things I've observed, people in periods of enormous power and responsibility, when they realize, when I go into a facility and I say, see that thing? That's an alternative energy and propulsion device, what people call a UFO. Well, once they realize what these implications are, then they get scared. They get to the edge of the table or the edge of the cliff and back off. So here we are. Now, I've spent 34 years trying to resolve this problem, literally 50% of my biological life. And it's a very heavy lift and a very dangerous lift. But, you know, what are we going to leave to our children? Your children, I have 12 grandchildren. You know, what are we leaving on this planet to them. And I think beyond that, there's even a bigger issue not being addressed. Some of these UFOs or UAPs are from extraterrestrial origin. None of them are hostile, but we have been targeting them with electromagnetic directional energy weapons since the 40s. And those technologies have become more and more sophisticated. And, they have not struck back. If they did, the whole planet would come to a standstill, because I think they're fundamentally peaceful and very highly developed socially and spiritually. However,
how do we know that?
Well, because there have been a lot of people who've had contact, and there's no evidence otherwise. Now, there are some scary stories, what we call the stagecraft of, so-called abductions and mutilations and things like that. But those are all done by covert human programs. Those are lookalikes. We can get into that. I mean, there's a whole section of the archive on that. And we actually document this. I have top secret guys who come forward on the record stating point blank that they have been part of operations abducting people.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.